So now we have a question in here. The next thing that's going to happen in this session is that we will ask the participants to ask contributions. So if we click on this one, we can add a few contributions. Let's do 5 different ones. All right. So next step in this activity would be to figure out which of these ones are super wild and which of them are not so wild. So in this situation, let's just select, let's select 3 categories. We have not so wild, and then OMG wild. All right. Then we will ask participants to dunk them into these categories. In order to set them up so it's easy to see that they relate to the question, what we normally do is use indent to show that these are the groups for answers for these questions. Now, in order for participants to know what's going on here, we of course need to provide some instructions. We can provide oral instructions, but it is also possible to include instructions in this session. So let me show you how you do that. So you go into the, this is the instructions tab. You click on the thinkers, and then you, of course, this button in order to add instructions. So let's put in some instructions to tell people how they do this. Okay. Now, I've cheated a little bit, so now I've gone ahead and written in a few instructions for the users of the session so they know what they need to do. You can see here 1, indicate where they need to make the responses. 2, I outline what needs to happen in terms of when they need to move some of these responses into the questions column. So here are a set of instructions that will help people if they get into trouble in terms of what they need to do. I'll just save these ones, and then you can see here these instructions are then listed for the participants to use. Now, the text you see here is not organized pretty well. It's just one little text string, which means that I have to format this text. So when I set this one up, it is not enough just to write in, as I did, the numbers and stuff. I will need to make sure that I use the formats in the top here in order to get the text editing that I need to. So let me just put this band back up in the right formats that you saw before. And yeah, I think that was it. Now, if I mark out this one, I can then use the numbers one, put this in numbers. There you go. Now it looks much better. All right, let's save it. And now you can see the instructions looking nice. So that's how you use the instructions. For the leader here, I could input some help text if the leader is not so sure about what to do. So if you do a think app, so a standardized session that other people needs to run, then this is the area we use to communicate instructions to the session leader that are running the sessions. But if I'm running the session myself, which is normal for session leaders to develop and run sessions on their own, then if I know what I'm doing here, then I don't need to put in instructions for me. So what I can do here, I can just delete these or leave this here, or I can delete them if I want. In this case, I'm going to delete them because more is less. Right? So that's it. So now to put in instructions for how the thinkers are supposed to use this function. I'm going to press the green one here so the thinkers can also see these instructions on the screen when they click on the instructions tab. Now, in order to move these responses into one of these categories, it's simply to left-click your mouse, hold it down, and in essence, drag and drop it into the bucket. So let's just do that for a second. I think AA is not so lame, BB is wild, and the 3 last ones are OMG wild. In order to select multiple ones, I press the first one, hold down the Shift key, press the last one, and then just drag and drop them into this one. Simple as could be. Alright, so now this session this activity is set up for the brainstorming the wildest things. The next step in the icebreaker is actually to choose what is the wildest thing. So what I do here is that I move over to the next and final activity, and here I need to set up this activity to be able to evaluate what is the wildest thing. So the first thing we need to consider is, of course, what are we going to evaluate on, and then how we're going to evaluate. So the first thing we're going to evaluate on here, let's say it is level of wildness. Level of wildness. And what type of vote do we want to have? Let's say 1 equals not super wild. And 5, and I'm clicking on this one. 5 equals worst thing ever. Right, so this is a range from 1 to 5. Now I cannot see them, so I have to adjust the columns. So I move these ones up, move this one down, so I can see the actual ranges. All right, so that's the first one, level of wildness. Let's see what type of category we need. In order to do that, we click the gear wheel, we go into the type, and then we want to see which of these types of votes or assessments are the right ones. In this one, I think it's a point range that we're looking for. Minimum is 1, maximum is 5. That's about it. So let's say OK. All right. Now, in order to see something in here, how the assessment works out, we need to put in some input. So let's just put in, let's do GGG, that's a suggestion. And now we can see we can choose from 1 through 5. So that's the type of vote we want. Now, if we wanted to add other evaluation criteria, we can do that by clicking the plus button here. Let's do the point range again. So we'll create another one here. And then let's evaluate this one by, I would love to do this. To do this, if I could. All right, and the description is going to be, and now I'm typing it in. So I've cheated now, and I've written out the description for the vote. So 1 is definitely never ever I would do this, and 5 definitely yes if I could. All right. In order to look at the results of a vote, we need to have more than one thing to look at. So let me put in another option to vote for. So now we can see 2. We'll vote this a little bit differently with these 2. And then we'll press vote to see what the vote results would look like. In this case, we're looking at the level of wildness. We are looking at the 2 options, and one is better than the other. However, we had 2 criteria. We could also see the other criteria. But in order to show results, I would prefer to show both of them at the same time. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add a view. I would do that with a total. I can decide weights. This time I'm going to leave them as they are. And here you can see the sum of both of these evaluation criteria. And that's the view I'd like to use. So I'm going to leave this here so you can see what it looks like. In essence, I don't really want to see all the details up here. So I can press this one. So I just see the graph. If I would, I could also just look at the numbers. But in this case, I want to show the graphs because it's easier to see. Now let's go back to the ballot. we have our two options here, and when we vote, we can see the results. Now, the next thing I want to check is what the participants, the thinkers, would see. In a normal setup, we can see that thinkers are allowed to change the view and see the results once they have voted. For this exercise, I would like to make sure that they look at the results when I choose to. So in this case, I will deselect this one. So if people have voted on this one and they don't do it at the same time, that I can decide to move them into the results. So they will be kept on the questionnaire until I say so. Will I like to allow thinkers to abstain for voting? Well, this is a fun little exercise, so I don't think I'm going to force them to it if they don't want to. So I'm just going to leave this here. Okay. So now this one is basically set up so people can vote for the wildest things. Now, in the real life scenario, let me show you how you move the data, right? So what we have here are wildest things that are ranked in terms of their wildness, at least a rough rank. Now we want to move these one over to the vote. The purpose of have these ones is to just vote on the ones that are the wilder ones. In this case, we only have 5. So in this case, I think I'll take everything we have in the wild and the oh my god wild category. So let's start with these ones. So what I do here is basically that I can drag and drop the responses into the actual vote. So I'm going with these 3 options, and I'm dragging and dropping it into the voting activity. It's green, I let them go, and it's from ThinkTank, so I just say yes, and that's it. Now I also wanted the wild one, so I take this one and do the same thing with that one, drag and drop it into there, and say paste, and then all of a sudden I have my 4 different options in the order that I added them by. So that's what you do during the session. So once you have grouped them in activity 3, you move them over like this, and all of a sudden it is set up and it's ready for you to, it's ready for participants to vote on. Right, and then they vote on this one, and then when they're done with the voting, they will then see the results in this chart. Right, so now we have the same results here. Let's go back here. I will reset the results because I don't want to do this. I want to make this ready for delivery. So I take these ones out. I cannot vote because there's no things to vote on. So now this is set up for usage. Now again, if I wanted to, I could add instructions for this vote. And in this case, I will do. So let me open up the instructions tab and add a few instructions. All right, so now I've cheated and put in the instructions just in case there are certain participants that are not quite sure what they need to do. So I'll save these instructions into the thinker, and now we have a set of instructions that will help people deliver these ones. Now, there are a few prompts here that I need to correct. Valid items, there's a description for what this is. These are, this is like an instruction to what type of question that we're answering. So we will say evaluation of how wild the things we have done are. Alright, so that's the type of evaluation we're doing. Yeah, I think that's it. So now we have built a very simple session with a welcome activity, an introduction using a PowerPoint, a brainstorm activity using a crowdsource, and an evaluation based on a vote. And these are by far the most used activities for ThinkTank sessions. We can set them up in different formats, but these ones are the most normal activities to use for a ThinkTank session. All right, so let's briefly review what we've been doing. We've started the session, we've created an agenda, we've designed each activity, and then we are now ready to test the session logic and design. Little comment about designing each activity. We've designed the activities for the first part of the agenda with the 4 or 5 activities you saw a second ago. Now let's go ahead and look at how we can test these activities.